How's everyone doing this morning? Welcome to day 2 of Social Innovation Summit. I am super excited to be here. My name is Odessa Jenkins. I'm the founder and CEO of the Women's National Football Conference. Today, y'all can call me Coach O. Is that cool? Everybody can call me Coach O if you want to. That's good. I am super pumped for. They gave me the session on moments of inspiration. I know all of you, most of you don't know who I am. There are some of my friends in this room. I'm going to talk to you about my moment of inspiration. And hopefully, by the end of this session, of this introduction, you feel inspired to come together and create a moment of inspiration yourself. I get to do some really fun stuff this morning. But one of the things that I'm excited about is tell you about my moment of inspiration. As I said, I'm the founder and CEO of the Women's National Football Conference. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to give you a little background. But I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about women's sports and the impact of women's sports. Today's going to be a pitch. You guys ready for a pitch? All right, we're going to have a little pitch. I got 8 minutes to pitch you. Before I ever thought about starting a women's sports league, I was doing a lot of the work that you were doing. I was scaling companies and businesses. I was one of the executives that helped scale the company called Your Cause. For several years, spent time in CSR, social impact, while playing tackle football. And that work, after our exit, shout out to Blackbaud in the building, after our exit took me to the U.S. national team, and then took me to U.S. national team as the top running back in the world as a woman. That's me right there in the middle, number 3, with the football. That's before 40 in the glasses. So after technology again took me to the U.S. national team playing running back and get it voted by the American Football Alliance as one of the top running backs in the world, and then that work then took me to the NFL and becoming one of the first women to ever coach in the NFL in an on-field position. Y'all are going to be an easy pitch because I wasn't even I'm not looking for claps there. But no, I tell you all of that because then it was a turning point for me. And I learned so much in becoming an athlete and playing college football and then getting to the NFL and realizing that I've been playing a sport that nobody knew. I was the best in the world at what I was doing. I stepped into the Atlanta Falcons is where I coached. And I was in the running back room with a guy named Devontae Freeman. We were in training camp for 7 weeks. And I had realized that I was still in my prime, and so was he. And at that time, I had won 3 gold medals. I was the top coach and player in the world, and nobody knew who I was or what I did. Had seen me play football. And my claim to fame in the NFL was that I was a female intern. And I'd gotten paid more as an intern in the NFL than I ever did playing my sport. And my turning point and my moment, my mission, my moment of impact spurred when Devontae was about to sign the biggest contract in the history of NFL at $48.9 million. And I was his coach, his intern coach, and we were sitting around. And him and I developed this great relationship because we were both running backs. And we developed this great relationship. And Devontae, came to the locker room, and I'm coming in the locker room, and I'm the hardcore intern now, y'all. Like, you got to understand, like, I'm stealing wheel. I run a tough program running through there. You couldn't tell Dan Quinn, he was in charge. I was in charge. And so, the backs, I got this reputation of bringing the juice and bringing the fire every day. And I walk in the locker room, and I look at Devontae. He looks at me, and I know that his life is about to change, and a tear rolls down my eye. Now, I don't know if y'all know anything about football, but a tear rolling down your eye prior to practice in the locker room is not the ideal situation, being the only woman in the room. But the reason that it did is because I knew at that time that because I was a woman, even though I was the best in the world at what I did, I'd never be paid, I'd never be compensated, I'd never make the impact that I wanted to make. So that was a turning point. I decided to leave training camp. I went back to Your Cause, helped my friend Matt Combs scale an amazing business, had an exit, and decided that was the moment that not only was I not going to abandon my dream of being the first female head coach in the NFL, I was going to go try and build it. And that's how the Women's National Football Conference was born. And that's the story of so many women in women's sports. My pitch, my convince here is that my small moment of impact that spurred building what will be one of the most impactful women's leagues in the world is also the same small impact that women's sports can have in community, commerce around the world. And we're spilling billions and trillions. I make up a lot of words because I'm a football coach. Quadrillions. We're spending quadrillions trying to solve social problems, right, downstream. And really, there's an upstream solution, and that's an investment socially and financially and in women's sports. So let me take you to 1977. How many of y'all were around 1977? Shout out to the 70s. No, don't raise your hand. I was just trying to embarrass y'all. No. No. So look, 1977, y'all, here's what's going on. The emotions had, whoa, you got the best of my love, whoa. Okay, so y'all do got some 70s babies up in here. Okay, so that was happening in 1977, but also a couple years later, exactly 5 years later, the Title IX was implemented. Title IX was an equity law that was all about creating equity and equality in sports. It's a federal mandate that wherever you had an investment, basically in boys and men, that you would have an investment in women. But what you also don't know is there were 3 women in 1977 coming together trying to solve an even bigger problem, having their mission, their moment of impact. They were they were pitching together 2 jock straps to try and make it more comfortable for women to be able to move in sports. You are looking at the first ever sports bra designed. The first ever sports bra design was stitched together by 3 women, and it was 2 jock straps. They weren't trying to change society. They were trying to solve a problem for the people around them. Women wanted to run, but the world wasn't designed for them. So they built something from nothing. Most people think that sports bras was an apparel innovation. It wasn't. It was infrastructure. And when women finally had infrastructure designed for them, participation exploded. That's the story of women's sports. That's my story. Prior to starting the Women's National Football Conference, most people didn't even know about flag and women playing football. Now flag football is one of the fastest growing sports on the planet. That wasn't all me, but we gonna just act like it was, okay? So, I spent several years, as I said, in social impact. We funded leadership programs, community developments, career readiness, confidence programs, everything that you can think about. Then I entered sports, and I realized that we've accomplished many of those same outcomes years early. And it hit me. Why do 95% of women in C-suite positions play sports? Where's that background come from? Not because sports created executives, because sport creates the skills and the community that executives need. So if you look at it, confidence, leadership, workforce, economic mobility, it all equals community impact. These are all the things that you are trying to change and ingrain in the societies that your companies exist in. So the pitch is, what if we stopped looking at women's sports traditionally like we've always looked at men's sports? Yes, we are entertained. Yes, when I was out there, I was, your girl was getting after it. And we start looking at its social infrastructure. We talk about media rights, sponsorships, attendance, outputs. Yes, I will take all your sponsorships. But the real product is confidence, belonging, visibility, leadership, health, opportunity. That's our story. That's the story of women's sports. That's the story of women's sports changing the world. And when you sit here and think about what is your role and responsibility, what are you writing checks for, what are you impacting for, what are you getting your employees to volunteer for, they all exist in a community where women's sports can help accelerate them. Your job, a lot of you, increase community engagement, improve health, create belonging, develop future leaders. All these behaviors are contagious in sports. And your investment and your connection will drive equity, inclusion, pathways like you've never seen before. How many can guess what this number is? Raise your hand. Somebody want to guess? Don't be shy. We only got a couple seconds. Huh? 20 billion, my guy. Y'all, so you get a truck. You get a truck. This is the number of sports bras that have been sold since 1977. And if you think about it, a group that came together to not make this kind of money or make this kind of impact was just trying to solve a problem for the people around them. And to me, that's the power of women's sports. I believe that organizations win the next decade when they recognize women's sports for what they are, the most undervalued, underinvestment impact tool in the world. CSR often funds programs. Women's sports builds ecosystems. So stop and think for a second, because that's the idea. You're the investors, you're the foundation builders, you're the impact makers. Women's sports are not a nonprofit initiative. They're a community builder, they're an infrastructure changer. And I'm here to share that your opportunity is limitless. Let's scale this ecosystem and change the world through sport.